Countless centuries ago, mankind ruled the in-between. On every world on which the sun shone, we settled. There was no place in the system where our hand could not reach. For such a small and puny species, we prided ourselves in our achievements. For eons, we looked up into the sky and wondered what lies beyond the skies. We strived to break the chains of gravity for generations. Many have tried and failed. Yet one day we did it. We did it through our ingenuity and cleverness. First, we went from horseback to the skies when the first plane lifted off the ground. Mere decades later, the first human reached beyond the clouds, high above, riding fire in the sky. A chemical rocket is dangerous and unpredictable. There were those who did not make it, those who gave their lives for the burning desire to break those chains. But they passed from us with glory, riding fire in the sky. Then we gave ourselves another decade, and for the first time, man had broken the chains of Earth's gravity completely when we first sent man onto our nearest celestial body, our moon. While those innovations propelled us into greatness, those were only our first steps. What came next was even greater. As the years rolled by, the best and brightest of our species managed to conquer some of the greatest hurdles presented to us that prevented spaceflight on a mass scale. Energy. To reach orbit, a massive amount of fuel had to be burned. We couldn't get a lot of things up there. The fuel we used back then was not only expensive, but it was also heavy and it was inefficient. Chemical rockets could only propel us so far, but that did not dismay our ancestors. As technology advanced, we eventually returned to the moon, and we were there to stay. The moon bases that were established, though expensive to operate, gave us the opportunity to manufacture rockets on the moon. Entire industrial complexes were established in the coming decades, which made for cheaper transport and production. Cold welding had proven itself invaluable in the industrial process. There was no need for fuel to fuse metals together, which expedited production. By the time we had the first humans on Mars, only then the space age truly began, and we prospered. Slowly but steadily, space travel started to become cheaper and cheaper, until the point where even an average person could save up enough to buy their own ship. Of course, before that, a crucial invention had to be made to make space travel faster, safer, and more efficient. That was the fusion core engine, or FCE. Utilizing small but quick bursts of energy, the acceleration of the spacecraft was increased tenfold. The FCE engines could be made small enough to make commercial space travel available to the broader public. Private ventures fueled the next 2 or so centuries of space travel. But then something happened. Today it is only a blur. Everything our ancestors worked so hard for was for naught. The shipping lanes between worlds that were once the arteries of humanity lie empty. Factories that churned out various goods lie dormant. All communications had been lost. For all we have achieved, we brought something that should have been left behind long ago. Greed and envy. Despite the abundance of every imaginable thing, instead of uniting and aim higher than ever before, we drew lines, we pointed fingers at each other. For all we have achieved, we never truly changed. The Terran Union, Earth held a tight grip over the periphery. The Martian Democratic Republic was the only real competitor to the Terran Union. Tensions were rising ever since the Martian president had announced new tariffs on Terran goods. Autarky was the name of the game. Mars wanted to develop their own industries independent of the tendrils of Earth. They did not want to rely on Terran imports to stay afloat. A Cold War began between the powers, vying for every inch of the solar system. Every asteroid was fought over using diplomacy at first. Harsh words, bending of laws and treaties, and falsifications of documents from both sides. When that was not enough to settle the matter, when neither side wanted to back down, both engaged in violence. First were small skirmishes between private security forces hired by both sides. Raids and sabotages were frequent. But what finally lit the match was the destruction of a passenger ship. Traveling from Titan to Earth, the Terran Union blamed the Martians blamed terrorists. But there was no more room for compromise. War was declared, a war to decide who will be the hegemon of the solar system. A war so massive, so total, that it nearly wiped out not only human civilization but the human species as a whole, lasting for decades until nothing was left to fight for. Today, we can only see the remnants of the ancient warships still in orbit. We can observe the old monuments which still stand, though not many were spared from the wrath of saturated bombardment. We nearly wiped ourselves out, yet we are still alive. We were set back centuries. Some places were sent back into the Stone Age, both figuratively and literally. Alas, some of us survived the long winter, generations born into a dark age. living in the shadow of their own ancestors who brought both great prosperity and great destruction. Only when you lose something valuable do you become aware of its true value. We have learned, on that I swear we have learned. And from that day forward, we have vowed to ourselves to not repeat the same mistake once again. After centuries of rebuilding and rummaging through the rubble of what could have been our tombs, we have returned to a state where we can start anew. Civilizations, we have learned, do not last forever. The people are the ones who make up a civilization, and people tend to change with time. But as the first bold claim to reach the moon by the end of the decade so long ago, we shall claim a goal higher yet, to build a civilization to stand the test of time. The sun shone brightly even in our darkest moments. So did the people shine bright in the shadow of an age long past. So we shall continue to stand like the unconquered sun. We must turn our faces outward, for we are returning to the stars. There is a new future to be won, and we shall build something greater together. Once again, like Icarus, undaunted, we will climb to reach the sun. We will again light a fire in the sky, and we will again make those small steps. For as long as the sun, bright and unconquered, continues to shine, from the dark reaches of Sedna to the scorching surface of Mercury, so shall we. Per aspera ad astra, per ardua ad astra,